Can the Indiana Fever, take it all the way and win the championship this year? We get into it next on Beyond the Locker Room. The Indiana Fever, have been, kind of been the story throughout the, one of the big stories, if not the big story throughout this season in various ways. But the question that hasn't really been discussed that much, at least from what I've seen, has been a lot of micro discussions with them on and off the court. But what hasn't really been discussed seriously right now is can they win the championship? Is this team good enough to win it all? And I'm going to give my thoughts of where I think they sit right now, and what I think is possible for them. What is their high end, and what is their low end. In a lot of ways, and we'll see how it flushes out the next few minutes. So, big thing here right now, Indiana Fever, to say where we are right now, they're 20-12. They're first in the East. Half a game, ahead of the Atlanta Dream and the Washington Mystics, and essentially half a game up on the Liberty as well too. Now I will say this, just to give you a heads up. Don't forget, when it comes to playoff seedings and stuff like that nature, the WNBA is different than the NBA, where it is not by conference at this moment. I think that will change soon as we get more teams in, but it's actually an amalgamation of the two conferences. So it's the top 8 that get in. In that sense, when you look at it from a top 8 standpoint, let's see here if I can get it in the top 8, see where things stand playoff-wise. Let's see here. Let's see, top 8, Western standings. See where we're standing. Let's see here. That is that. Let's see. But yeah, I'll look into that in a second, so I won't keep up. But when you look at it from a top 8 standpoint, they're right in the middle of the hunt right now. I think, them, Atlanta, Washington are all jockeying for position. Suspect that, in some form or fashion, 2 of those 3 might actually end up playing each other in the first round. It's quite possible. At the moment, as we're looking at the moment, that would be Indiana versus Washington, as they're the 4 or 5 matchup at the moment. Atlanta would get Vegas. So you can see the jockeying going on right now. Right now they're a game and a half behind Vegas, as well as Washington and Atlanta being 2 games back from Vegas. Obviously, Vegas has the tiebreakers right now. I believe definitely for Atlanta and Washington. However, Indiana, I think it's split at the moment. So we'll see where things land there when it comes to tiebreakers, all that. Minnesota, Golden State's still within reach at the moment, as they're 3 games up on these teams, 3.5 games up on those 3 teams. And Minnesota is clearly ahead. They've already clinched a playoff spot as of this recording. So, we'll get into a Minnesota discussion later in another episode. But for Indiana right now, what is it? Can they break through this year and really win it all? They were very close to getting to the finals last year without Caitlin Clark. And we'll see now with her addition moving to the playoffs, is that still possible for them to actually get to the next hurdle and get over the hump and actually not only get to the finals, but actually win the whole thing? Now, the case for them, is the fact that they are a dynamic offense. I would say they are easily the best offense in the league. Extremely dynamic. Their guards are 2 of the more potent offensive guards in the league, in Mitchell and Clark. I think right now, their rating right now based on Basketball Reference is around 116 to 117, which easily puts them as number 1 in the WNBA. Their net rating's around +7, putting them among the league's best. So, they are definitely a potent offense, no 2 ways about it. They play quickly, they like to push the ball, and they're extremely efficient offensively. So, they find ways to get the hoop, attack, get to the line. So so that's obviously very important, the efficiency of it in when it comes to postseason basketball. Now, the question is, can they maintain that offense when it comes to the top teams? And their offense right now looks like championship level offense. Now, when they run the championship level defense, what does that look like? And that's where it's going to be interesting, because I think there's a lot to look into when it comes to 3-point shooting. They're built on pace and space, like how we see a lot of modern NBA and WNBA teams are. They have right now true shooting percentage according to Basketball Reference of 605 right now. And while their effective field goal percentage, is approximately 55 and a half. They have multiple high level shooters in Mitchell, Clark. Cunningham has shot the ball pretty well this year, and other additional perimeter shooters. So they have ways to diversify offense when it comes to shooting from the perimeter. So if teams happen to try to trap Clark in the backcourt, they have outlets in Mitchell. Even Boston at times will bring up the ball for them to kind of deliver to shooters, to secondary shooters. So they have ways to kind of break you down and get clean shots off for those 3-point shots. Clark in herself right now, she's putting up a lot of volume, no two ways around it. But her advanced numbers have her around this. So we're looking at 22.7 per, 60.3 true shooting percentage, a 53.2% effective field goal percentage, and 45.2% assist percentage, and 113 offensive rating. So that's what it is according to Basketball Reference. That's where all these are coming from. So pretty strong, no two ways about it. But the assist percentage is really big for her. I think actually it's her best quality. There's a lot of talk always for her about shoot these deep threes. She's just not consistent enough with that three. But what she is really good at, I think, is really kind of finding open players and seeing the game a certain way. And if you're able to move or cut, she'll find you. So she creates a lot of opportunities. She's she is definitely the engine for offense at the moment for Indiana. And they have ways of I say so for the moment. I say that because at times Stephanie White will run the offense through Boston at times. Clark obviously being the primary one, and at times she'll run it through Mitchell as well too, as we saw during the playoffs last year. So we'll see what happens with her, but I think the issue with Clark has always been in my mind is not, can she play? Can she not play? Is she all-star? No, she's an all-star level player. My issue's always been with Clark, and I think this is what Stephanie White and her, sides were trying to get across to her, is that her greatest strength is her ability to pass. And that there will open up opportunities, not just for her teammates, but for her. And once she can get that through her head, then the team will be better off. And I think after, I would say some of the bad losses they had mid-season, she was, when she came back from the injury, the last injury she came back from, I don't know if she saw how the team was playing without her, because they were playing quite well without her, and realized, okay, if I do these things, we could be even a better team. And offensively, she's shown that, and defensively, she's gotten a bit better post that last injury. So, so let's, but it's not all about Clark, as much as some fans would like to think it is. It's not all about Clark. Aliyah Boston's efficiency. She's, in my mind, she's arguably their most important player. Boston's current advanced numbers include 24.5 per, and based on the per, shows you what it is. 62.1% true shooting, 58% effective field goal percentage, and then, of course, 160 offensive rating, and a 103 defensive rating. And that is really something. She's the defensive anchor on this team, as I said before. As she goes, so goes a lot of ways. So goes Indiana, and of course the big three, and right now might be having the best season of everybody at the moment, is Kelsey Mitchell. She has been fantastic. She carried the team last year offensively with Clark out. 24.2 points per game, 63% true shooting percentage. 58.3 effective field goal percentage, 124 offensive rating. My goodness, that gives Indiana something championship teams desperately need, which is a second elite scorer who doesn't need the ball constantly. So she can play on the ball, she can play off the ball. That's what makes her so special. You can slot her in there when need be if Clark is hurt, and she could handle the ball. If Clark is back, she can play off it. It doesn't really matter. Now, looking for a t-shirt that says more than just your style? Beyond the Locker Room tees are made with premium quality fabric that's soft, comfortable, and built to last. Perfect whether you're at the game, at the gym, or out with friends. Every design is inspired by the mindset, passion, and culture of sports, giving you something that stands out wherever you go. Shop the full collection today at www.beyondlockerroom.store. We're the mindset, live the game. Beyond the locker room. Second half of the equation is what happens on the other side of the ball, defensively. And this is where things get a bit dicey for Indiana. So defensive rating, and this is the biggest red flag for Indiana and for Fever fans. Indiana's defensive rating is around 109, 110. So compare with the offensive rating around 116, 117. They're roughly ninth in the league in league defensively, middle of the road. And that's a concern. Championship teams usually, can survive an average defense, but surviving multiple rounds of elite offense is going to be an issue for them. And I don't know when you got to face teams like Minnesota, and they might get away with it. Golden State, but Golden State has a problem. Their problem with Golden State is a top defensive team, which means if your offense isn't humming perfectly, which it will likely not be against the Valkyries, you're putting a lot of pressure on your defense. And then, of course, Vegas. So they got some issues to deal with there, and that's never mind Atlanta, who's giving them problems this year. So opponent, efficiency. This is the one I watch closely with Indiana. Their opponents have been shooting around 51% against them. Effective field goal percentage against them. It's not bad, but it's not championship level caliber stuff that we're talking about. So the question is, can Indiana's elite playoff can Indiana force elite playoff teams into inefficient shots, I should say. And I don't know as the case. Last year, let's face it, Sans Clark, they were a better defensive team. That's no shade. That's just fact. The numbers say it. And they did play better defensively, gave themselves a lot of opportunities. Now, they weren't as potent offensively, so that's the give and take. So it makes for an interesting scenario with Indiana going into the playoffs, and what if they could continue to play defense, which I think overall they've been better at recently, but it's not something I'm holding my hat on and holding the line on when it comes to Indiana. Rebounding is another thing to look into with them. Their defensive rebounding percentage is around 76.5%, according to the current team advanced numbers. And that's something to keep in mind, because the Fever's defensive problems can compound themselves. And once again, missed shot equals offensive rebound, which equals second chance, which equals defensive breakdown, which equals potential fouls. So you can see how this could be an issue with team like Minnesota. They give extra possessions. I just mentioned Atlanta, who has the best rebound in the league. That is one of the reasons why it gives them issues. So you can see that's gonna be a problem. That could be a problem, and then get those key rebounds when you need them most. And then the turnover percentage, it's been ballyhooed quite a bit about Clark's playoff her turnovers throughout the last year and this year. And this is something where you got to take hold of the ball in the postseason. And their turnover percentage right now is around 15.2%. And since they play a pace, with a lot of offensive value, turnovers can become deadly when the game slows down. So that's another thing too, because it will slow down the postseason. And can they handle the turnover levels at that pace? And we'll see. So, high pace plus high efficiency plus low turnovers, not high pace plus high scoring and giving extra possessions away and more turnovers. So this is where Clark's turnover propensity right now could become a real issue in the postseason. She doesn't be careful. So, I say this: Indiana's record against the top 8 teams. Right now they're 6-8 against other top 8 teams, puts them behind several of their major championship competitors. So we'll see where that lands at the end of the season. But the odds are that they're gonna have some problems. So offensive rating right now, top 2. Defensive rating, top 5. Net rating right now, +8 or better. I would say this is what it is for actually, let me rephrase that. Offensive rating, this for championship indicators, right? So usually top 2, top 5 for defensive rating. I would say even top 5 offensively. Net rating +8 or better. Efficiency when it comes to field goal percentage, usually top 3. Opponent efficiency on field goal percentage, top 5. Turnover percentage, top 5. Defensive rebounding percentage, top 5. And record versus top 8 is usually 600 percentage or above. So let's see what it looks like for them. red flags on them right now, outside the top 5 right now. If you're outside the top 5 for them, offensive rating, that's not the case. Defensive rating right now, they're 8 to 10 plus. So therefore, that's a red flag for them. Net rating +4 or lower, that's pretty good so far. Or lower. Efficient, efficient field goal percentage, top 3. Right now, they're middle to bottom. Opponent efficient field goal percentage, top 5. Right now, they're bottom half. Turnover percentage, top 5. Right now, they're in the bottom half. Defensive rebound percentage, top 5. Right now, they're in the bottom half. And record versus top 8, as I mentioned before, it's below 500 at the moment. So, outside of the offense, where they are obviously in the mix, that's going to be a concern. And so, one of the things that's been a trend right now, and it's something to watch for, and it's not discussed much, but some of these big games that Clark's having right now are quite honestly against weak competition. Your Chicago's, your Seattle's, stuff like that. So they're going to beat teams like Minnesota, Las Vegas, New York, Golden State, Atlanta, where possessions matter. And they haven't, that's where at times they haven't been, they've been pretty good, I would say, offensively in the late goings, but at times they had some boneheaded moments, as you saw the other day against the Vegas Aces. So, their defense right now is their biggest issue right now. Their offense right now is legitimately championship level. I mean, we're talking about, Clark's playmaking, Mitchell's elite scoring, and Boston's efficiency. Big 3 wise offensively, they're as good as anyone in the league. Right now, it comes down to defense, and can that get better, and can it be good late in games? And I don't know right now if that's the case. Mitchell and Clark are not defensive wonders. You're adding a lot of pressure right now on Boston. That's not even saying in this case here, they have more issues off defensively when it comes to Cunningham, who's not good, not a great defender in their own right. So they got some issues to deal with, but I think they're an intriguing team. And could they get hot? Absolutely, if they get the right matchups. We'll see. We'll get into it. There's also another thing, I won't get much into it, but there's also another element they have they're fighting uphill against, which is distractions. I'll just leave it at that. I think you guys know. If not, Google it. You'll know what I'm talking about. And I think that might eat them like the snake eating its tail. That might actually be the biggest item that might, end their campaign quicker than they like it to be. Anyways, that's my thoughts on the Indiana Fever. I think they're going to be a very interesting situation. They're going to be a tough out for anybody. There's compelling reasons why they could actually get the finals and potentially win it, but there's some big red flags to be concerned about. But anyways, folks, that's my breakdown of the Indiana Fever on if they're contenders or pretenders. It's a little 50-50ish with them, but check in. Continue to check in with me. You know where to find me as always. On X, on Blue Sky, on Facebook, and obviously on IG. Find me right here on YouTube. Like, comment, share, and subscribe, guys. I appreciate the support. Keep on hitting it up. Get the algorithm, get me up there, and for more eyeballs to see me. Anyways, guys, thanks as always. Take care and be careful out there. Talk to you next time. Peace.